Welcome to the Communication Queens podcast for the visionary leaders, speakers, service providers, and podcasters who are looking to stand out sharing their story. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, former screenwriter turned master communications coach. On this podcast, I'll be coaching you on how to share your own transformation story so that you increase your visibility, influence, and income on podcast interviews. Let's get your voice heard. Hello, my fellow communication queens. We are back with another quickie, and I am your host, Kimberly Spencer. So I am excited to dive in because this is one part of the podcasting guesting strategy that I see so many service-based entrepreneurs where they go awry. And here is why. They are going on podcasts for where their client is after their services. What I mean specifically is if you're a web designer, say for example, and you're going on web designer podcasts. Yes, they exist. Yes, it's a visual medium, and still there are podcasts. People who are your ideal customers are probably not necessarily listening to web designer podcasts. It's probably other web designers looking for tips and tricks and strategies as to how to better do their jam versus going on the podcast like an entrepreneur podcast or a specifically web designer. So if you're working with people who are rebranding, you could do rebranding podcasts. The other part is true is if you work in any form of service that helps with relationships. So let's say, for example, you're a divorce attorney. If you're going on divorce podcasts, people who are listening to divorce podcasts, they're already done. They already have their lawyers. They're going through that. Going into thinking of the angle of how you could pitch yourself to get on marital podcasts, that is interesting. Of maybe like the 5 signs that you want to look for before, you head into divorce. What are the signals that you should be aware of? Or, thinking you're ready for divorce, what actually goes into that? So looking at podcasts that are where your clients are, you want to meet them where they are. If you're a service-based entrepreneur and you're meeting them after, that they may find you, they may like you. But if you have ideally, you have a one-stop service like a divorce attorney, then like clients may not be coming back for that second divorce. Hopefully not. But if they are, you have repeat business. But that is the key, is like you want to go on podcasts to where your ideal clients are. The same is true for if you're any sort of relationship dating coach, depending upon who your ideal customer avatar is. And this is obviously like different for each person. The podcast that you go on, if you are dating with the intention of marriage, or if you're dating for like exploration of your own female sexuality, or if you're dating, they're all different niches as far as like who your ideal customer is. And so if you are specifically focused on marital health podcasts, that one can be really good for targeting the existing marital couples. But you could also go on podcasts that are targeting, engaged couples, wedding podcasts, because then you're getting couples who are fresh in marriage, who are literally like the brides listening to the podcast are like, oh my gosh, you're right. I probably should prepare, aside from a, expensive wedding, I should probably also prepare for, the actual relationship of marriage and what goes into the being newlyweds and whatnot. So being able to look at where do you meet your ideal customer avatar? Like, where do they meet you? Because typically, where I mean where are they in the journey? So for my coaching business, most of my clients are in between 2 positions. So they are, have one business that's thriving and doing well, and then they have another business that's their passion project. They have a career that they're really thriving in, and then they want to start a business. So they're in between. They're in the in-between. I've always coached in that space. It makes very much sense to me since I have 2 businesses, and I kind of always have. That experience of being in the in-between, of managing yourself, your team, your schedule, your life around having 2 vehicles that you're driving at the same time. So being able to understand what is the point in which you meet them.
So think about it this way. When you're going on podcasts, think about who are all the people that your ideal customer avatar is interacting with 90 days before you. So let's say, for example, relationship coaches or divorce coaches or divorce lawyers, etc. Typically, your ideal customer is probably meeting with maybe a marriage counselor, maybe a marriage therapist, maybe maybe they are also, talking to their single girlfriends and getting their input or their friends. So podcasts around friendship, podcasts around like being vulnerable in your friendships and sharing those life-altering experiences. Those are all opportunities to meet your client where they're at 90 days before they actually become your client. Because then when you build the relationship with your podcaster for the podcast that you go on, because remember, here at Communication Queens, we are all about building long-term relationships with podcasters, not just having lovely one-night stands. And I mean that metaphorically, but I mean, you do the episode and then you never hear from them again. So building that relationship, that means that when you have built the relationship with someone who's interviewing women who are going through transition or having issues or having girlfriend chats, then when someone says like, oh, I think I might be getting a divorce or something like that, then that is they already have, the podcaster is like, oh, well, you should talk to so-and-so who's the divorce attorney, or this divorce coach on how to support you through the process. The same is true for like a web designer. So if you are a web designer, like, where are you getting most of your clients? Are they solopreneurs just starting out in their business? Those are the podcasts to start targeting on the solopreneur struggle of like how to start your business, how to build your first website, why, do it for yourself or, get somebody to do it for you. And being able to think back 90 days prior. Who are those people that your customers are interacting with 90 days before you? And once you find those people, once you find those people, find their podcasts, or ask those people what podcasts they listen to and then go on those podcasts. Because then you're meeting your client and you're able to guide them until that point when they actually choose to work with you. So I hope this episode served. Let me know if you had a big aha and are totally shifting your strategy as far as who you're targeting for getting on podcasts. And as always, stand out, be heard.
Thank you so much for listening. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. For more tips on guest podcasting, storytelling, and communication strategies, follow us on social media at Communication Queens Agency and visit us at communicationqueens.com. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And in the meantime, remember, your story has the power to save one life. Let your story and your voice be heard.